All right, so good afternoon, everyone. You're welcome to today's class, and we'll be looking at topics number 3, overview of the Keynesian theory. Overview of the Keynesian theory. And then it is very important that we look at the theory that exists before that Keynesian theory. Very, very important that we consider the theory that exists before that Keynesian theory. And that theory is the classical school of thought, or the classical theory. So prior to the Keynesian theory, the classical school of economics have existed, for a very long time. And, most of the assumptions, most of the theories they were of the opinion of was really, really in force. It was working, not until a particular point in time where the theory failed to work. So we need to understand the classical school of thought, or the classical theory, and analyze the tenets and all the things they discussed. Okay. Now, the first one is a concept of laissez-faire. The laissez-faire, is a French word that is very familiar with the classical school of thought. And the concept of laissez-faire talks about, the free hand, all right? The position that the government does not have any role to play in production, distribution, and provision of goods and services. If you remember your microeconomics, as an introduction in your microeconomics, you were exposed to the different economic system that exists. You remember, we talk about the free market economy, all right, or the capitalist. Then we talk about the centrally planned economy, or we'll say the socialist, and then the mixed economy. You remember that in political science, it is referred to as the capitalism. But in economics, it is called a free market economy. So if you remember, that free market economy simply says that the means of production, distribution, and exchange of goods and services, the decision on what to produce, for whom to produce, how to produce, when to produce, majorly rest on the people. Okay, that was the assumption in the free market economy. So the means of production is principally rested on the hands of the people. That means the government does not have a role in production. That particular, free market economy is what that translates to the classical school of thought. And so the classical school of thought, is of the opinion that the government does not have a role in production. The government does not have a role in business. The government does not have a role in, whatever you think about in provision of goods and services. So that is the concept of laissez-faire. All right. So that laissez-faire simply says that the laissez-faire simply says that allow the people to decide who produces what, allow the people to decide, how the goods to be produced, allow the people to decide when it is to be produced. Example of that free market economy is about the role of private sector. All right, that means the private sector should be totally involved in the production of goods and services. Let's take, for example, the tertiary institution today. You discover that the tertiary institution is not only all right. So let's take, for example, the case of the tertiary education in Nigeria, for example, today. University of Lagos, UI, OAU, and all of those schools are being managed by the government, okay? And then we still have private universities, Covenant, Babcock, Bells, Redeemers, that are being managed by the private sector. In a laissez-faire, in the concept of laissez-faire, that particular principle is of the opinion that the government does not have any role to play in business. The government does not have any role in production. The government should not own schools, okay? So that concept of laissez-faire says, allow the people, allow individuals to own every means of production. All right. This particular concept is prominent in countries today. For example, the United States. In the United States, they are the proponents or tenants of the capitalism, of the free market economy, of the classical school of thought. In United States, most of the production, most of the things to produce, everything rests in the hand of individuals. Power, environment, education, health, all of those things are totally provided by the private individual. So that is the free market economy. That is the classical school. That is the concept of laissez-faire. It's very important. You need to understand, because all theories of economics originate from this classical school. Okay? The amendment to classical school, gave rise to Keynesian, the neo-Keynesian, the new Keynesian, and other schools of thought, the neoclassical. But the beginning of that schools of thought is the classical school. So, and of course, the proponent has always been Adam Smith. We have Leonard, David Ricardo, and all of that, Paul Samuelson. They are all classicalists. So they have the opinion that allow the individuals to produce goods and services. Allow the individuals to determine how goods and services will be produced. Okay? And then that leads us to the concept of efficiency. In the classical school of thought, efficiency is very important. Efficiency, is emphasized greatly. The classical school believes that optimality, optimization, the best can be achieved if only we ensure efficiency. So in the classical school of thought, efficiency precedes welfarism. Efficiency is very key. Efficiency is better than welfarism. Okay? For example, in the classical school of thought is only interested in having the least combination of inputs in order to produce the largest output. That is capitalism. So the capitalism, for example, look at the commercial banks. Take, for example, UBA. The capitalism ideology is what is driving UBA, all these commercial banks. Why? They want to see if they can even have only 2 staff in a banking hall. And having those 2 staff in a banking hall will be able to provide all the banking services that are needed. I don't know many of you that were, experienced the period of AfriBank. AfriBank was a bank owned by the government. Okay, if you remember vividly, when you go to AfriBank, you would see the person that will stamp. We have the one that will collect paper. We have the one that will give you naira. We have the one that will give you kobo. We have the one that will attend to you if your ATM, if your account is blocked. You have the one that will check your account balance. You have the one. So in that case, welfarism is the key. That's government. Okay, but in capitalism, efficiency is the very most important thing. Of course, you remember that you calculate efficiency as output over input. So that means, can we use the minimum number of inputs in order to produce a massive output? That is the capitalism. Take, for example, when PHC and NEPA was NEPA, we have different staff. The one that cut lights, the one that will go and reconnect it is different. The one that will give you bill, the one that will collect money. So you just go to NEPA office and you will see so many people doing nothing, absolutely nothing. And when you enter the hall, you will see everybody cooking, eating, amala, basemo, different kinds of food. But go to PHC and now, that has changed. Because why? The concept of efficiency is being emphasized. For example, again, come to Unilag. Okay, record has it that for every lecturer in Unilag, we have about three non-academic staff. You go to the departments, the one that will collect letter is different from the one that will give you letter. The one that will stamp is different from the one that will dispatch. We have secretary, we have assistant secretary, we have senior executive officer. That happens where in the public sector, the concept of efficiency is not emphasized. Because in the public sector, welfareism is the key. And what is welfareism? Yes, instead of us to have people that are not working, let us employ 50 people. But for example, if you go to that place, we only needed 5 people or 10 people. But because we need more people, let people be working. Now. That is what welfareism. All right? That is what welfareism. So you will see a job that 2 people will naturally do. But what will you have in that case? You will have 15 people doing it. That's why when you get to passport office, you see different people stamping different things. When one person can actually do it. Go to a private university today, go to the private university, in the department, you will see only 1 staff. In your faculty, there might be only 3 academic, non-academic staff, and those 3 will efficiently discharge their duties. So the concept of classical school emphasizes on what efficiency, getting the best output using minimum what input. The next emphasis of the classical school is on profit maximization. So the classical school emphasizes on profit maximization. And what does that mean? It simply means that profit is being maximized, or the objective of individuals or organizations is to maximize profits. So that particular objective is what that drives what the classical school. So the classical school is not interested in providing welfare. The classical school is interested in maximizing profit maximization. So in classical school of thought, we have PHCN, not for people to have light, but to make profits. In classical school, we have commercial banks just to make profit. In classical school, we have universities just because those private universities want to make profits. In classical school, we have those organizations that exist primarily for profit maximization. And that is why Adam Smith said something. He said, it is not of the benevolence of the butcher that we have our daily meat, neither is that of the baker that we have our daily bread. Okay? But it is of the self-interest. That is the classical school of thought. So the classical school of thought is telling us that a butcher that comes to sell meat, Eleron, is not selling Enron because he likes to cut Enron. No, he's selling Enron simply because he wants to make profits. The same goes to the one that baking. Those people saying, I love baking cake. Those ones that will go to wedding, the color is blue. Blue stands for love. Red stands for this. Stands for happiness. He's not doing it because he loves baking cake. Is principally doing it because of what? Profit maximization. And so the classical school of thought now limited the role of the government to 2 things. 1, maintenance of state machinery will be the role of the government. The second one, provision of essential amenities. So the government, or the role of the government in the classical school, is just limited. And what's the first thing? Maintenance of state machinery. Let us have police. Let us have the judiciary. Let us have the army. Let us have the navy. Let them maintain security. Let there be peace. Let there be law and order. So that classical school emphasizes that the role of the government should be limited only to the arbitration and enforcement of contracts between parties. Remember that in macroeconomics, we talked about different economic agents, the government, the firm, and the consumers. Remember, there's always an interaction between consumers and firm. That's it. Consumers will come as laborers. They will come to work, and the firm must give them income. All right. Consumers will also buy goods from the firm, and then the firm must supply and consumers must pay. Whenever there is that exchange, a contract has taken place. Of course, you know what a contract is: an agreement between two parties where one of the parties promises, all right, to fulfill a particular responsibility in exchange for remuneration. That's contract. So, for example, I go to the canteen, cafeteria, maybe Jesus Embassy, that is in Faculty of Social Sciences, and I eat my very good food there. I am under obligation to pay. That's contract. Okay, what is the role of the government? The government, under the classical school of thought, only said that government should ensure that those contracts are enforced. Very simple. Meaning, if I go to Jesus Embassy, for example, and I eat, government should ensure that I pay. Okay, I pay money. Okay, if I buy a land and I pay the land fee, role of government ensures that that land must be allocated to me. Omonile must not hijack my land and take my land and go and resell. No. So that means the government, or the role of the government, must only be limited to enforcement of contracts. If you pay school fees, for example, we are under obligation to teach you. That is the role of the government. So government should not poke nose in provision of social amenities, in provision of goods and services. Just ensure that contracts are enforced. All right. So it means that anytime there's a breach of contract, I should be able to go to the court and seek for what? Redress. That is the role of the government. Whenever I buy a land, once I pay money, the government is under obligation to ensure that that land is given to me, because I've given a legal tender. You can remember the issue that is happening now. You know, president says old 500 naira and 1,000 naira does not exist. Some people said, yeah, it exists. Abi, but the CBN has said it does not exist. If you use old money and go and buy land now, I'm telling you, you're on your own. You are on your what? On your own. If the owner of the land refuses to give you the land, if you like, go to court, you will not win, because that legal tender does not exist anymore. So that's the role of the government. The second one is the provision of essential amenities. Another word for the essential amenities are called public goods. That's another word for the essential amenities. They are called what? They are called public what? Public goods. What do I mean by public goods? Public goods are goods that have two major features. They are characterized by two major features. One, they are non-excludable, and they are non-rivalrous. Non-excludable and non-rivalrous. Okay? That is a public goods. They are characterized by these two major features. They are non-excludable and they are non-what? Rivalrous. Okay. What do I mean by when we say a good is said to be non-excludable? A good, all right, is said to be non-excludable when the consumption of the good does not prevent the other person from consuming the same good. We say that that good is what? Non-excludable. Okay? What about non-rivalrous? I will explain. A non-rivalrous good, okay, we say that a good is non-rivalrous, sorry about my spelling. A good is not rivalrous when the consumption of the good, all right, when the consumption of the good does not reduce the satisfaction another person derives from consuming the same good. These two definitions are very critical in analyzing the role of government in provision of essential commodity. The essential commodity here are called public goods. And what are public goods? Public goods are goods that have two major characteristics, okay? One is that it is non-excludable, public goods. Two is that it is non-rivalrous. What do we mean by a good is non-excludable? We say a good is non-excludable when the consumption of the goods does not prevent the other person from consuming the same goods. That good is non-excludable. Example of that kind of good is road or no, road, all right? A road is a non-excludable goods. Why? In that place, the road is non-excludable in the sense that on that road, okay, Grace can drive on that road, drive her car, nobody will stop her. Okay, Kanayo can drive that goods on that road, nobody will stop Kanayo. Okay, Bosse can drive, nobody will stop. Ada can drive on that road, nobody will stop. So these people can follow that road. I'm driving, you can't stop me. Me using that road does not prevent the class governor from using the road. That is why that road is a public goods. Please, when they say what are public goods, don't say public goods are goods provided by the government. Don't say that. As an economist, public goods are goods that have two features. They are non-excludable and they are non-rivalrous. It is non-excludable because when somebody is using that goods, it does not stop the other person from using the goods. Police is your friend. Example is police. Provision of security, police. I should go to police and complain. You can go to police and complain. If I use police, it does not stop you from using police. All of us can use police. Police is our friend. Okay? Road is another example. Bridge. Everybody can use it. You can't prevent somebody from using the goods. The next one is non-rivalrous. What do you mean by non-rivalrous? A good is said to be non-rivalrous if the consumption of that goods does not reduce the satisfaction another person derives or the welfare another person derives from consuming that goods. That is what we call what is non-rivalrous. For example, road. If Bright is passing a road, the enjoyment Grace will derive from using that same road does not stop Bright from passing the same road. So from FSS to New Hall, if me and your class governor are on one side enjoying our life, you know, making noise, it does not stop another person from using that same road. That is non-rivalrous. If it is private goods, then these two, the opposite, they are excludable and they are rivalrous. Is excludable because what? The consumption of that goods will stop the other person from using it. For example, my phone. If I'm using my phone and Grace wants to use my phone, why will you use my phone? Use my phone. Don't use my phone. I can use my phone to make call, to browse. Only my WhatsApp will be there. Grace WhatsApp will not be there. Or your class Google WhatsApp. What does that mean? As I'm using these goods, it prevents another person from using it. That's why it is a private good. It is also rivalrous. How is it rivalrous? As I'm consuming these goods, the benefit I derive from consuming it, okay, will affect the benefit another person derives from consuming it. For example, if you are to do an assignment, and then in class, you have to do an assignment, and you don't have Android phone, you have Mimi Pada on one room, but your class governor has, or boss has Android phone, iPhone, maybe boss has iPhone. Me, I don't have Android phone, I have Mimi Pada on one room. I'll not tell boss, enjoy my phone in now, Jen Sare low, move a browse, move a assignment here, move a share assignment in me. That point, boss will give me an iPhone and I'll be using it to browse. As at that point, Bosse cannot check Twitter or Instagram. Bosse cannot ping, cannot check what is happening. What has happened? my satisfaction I'm deriving from doing assignments using that phone has prevented Bosse from pinging, from doing Instagram, from checking what is trending at that same time. That is why it is a private what? Goods. So government's role is on provision of social amenities, which are public goods. Note that there are also some goods that are mixed. They are rivalrous and non-excludable. We have goods like that. And we also have goods that are non-rivalrous, okay, but excludable. They are all called mixed goods. They are called what? Mixed goods. They are called mixed goods. So we have those type of goods. We have them. They are rivalrous, meaning the enjoyment you derive from consuming that goods will affect somebody else. However, if I'm to use the goods, it will not stop the other person from using it. That's the first category. The second category, it is non-rivalrous, but excludable, meaning the enjoyment I derive does not stop the other person from deriving the same enjoyment, but I can prevent somebody from using that same good. Example of this category is a cinema. All right. For example, want to go and watch Battle at Buka Street. Jennifer. By the time you get to a zone, okay, you can be excluded from watching the film if you do not pay money. So you can be prevented. But the moment Kanayo, Grace, Bright, Ada, Bosse, Buchi, the moment 6 of us enters the cinema and begin to watch the film, the enjoyment I derive will not prevent Grace from enjoying the same. I can be laughing, be watching. Grace will also be laughing and be watching. That's a typical example, cinema. A typical another example of the first category, which is rivalrous and non-excludable, is raffle draw. Raffle what? Raffle draw. In raffle draw, everybody is allowed to do what? To place your bet. Everybody, you place your bet. But anybody that wins, we prevent the other person from what? Winning. Let's go back. Remember, classicalists is of the opinion that only social amenities should be provided, which are public goods, defense, road, bridges, you know. Once it's social amenities, government should provide, okay? That is the concept of what? Of the classical school of thought. So this school of thought was in place, you know, and everybody was enjoying. Life was good, efficiency was achieved, profit was maximized, full employment was achieved. Not until in the 1930s, after the Second World War, okay? And that led to Great Depression, okay? And that led to the concept of what? Keynesian school of thought. So in the 1930s, when after the Second World War, there was Great Depression. Was it after the Second World War or before the Second World War? 1936, Second World War, 1945, before the Second World War, down to the second, before the Second World War, after the First World War, there was Great Depression. And that will lead me to explain the concept of business cycle. That will lead me to explain the concept of what? Business cycle. And what do I mean when I say business cycle? Business cycle are periods of boom, okay, bust, period of boom or recovery, boom, recession, depression, and recovery. That is what we call what? Business what? Cycle. Look at it. Business cycle. Recovery, we have boom, we have depression, recession, we have depression, and we have recovery. That's business cycle. Okay? This is a great theory in what? In macroeconomics. Business what? Cycle. Business cycle. Very important, very critical, okay, in macroeconomics, business cycle. In the business cycle, you would see that there is a period, all right? And this period, if you look at this period now, this is a period of recovery. Between, you see, when the curve was going up. And then this period, this is a period of boom. Then this period is a period of recession. And this period is a period of what? Depression. Depression. Business cycle. So look at it. In economics, the theory of business cycle simply says that for every economy, they must experience recovery, they must experience boom, they must experience recession, they must experience depression, they must experience recovery again. So economies will always experience recovery, economies will always experience boom, economies will always experience recession, and economies will always experience what? Depression. What are period of boom? Period of boom are period of high growth. High what? High growth. Nigeria experienced boom in 2003. Nigeria experienced double-digit growth rates. That's why they will tell you that it's Obasanjo's regime that had the highest period of what? Boom. Experienced double-digit growth during Obasanjo's regime. While we will always have recession, okay? 2008 is an example, recession. 2016, immediately Buhari entered, there was recession. 2020, during the pandemic, there was recession. And what is recession? Recession is when we always experience a negative growth rate for 2 consecutive what? Quarters. That's recession. A negative what? Growth rate for 2 consecutive what? Quarters. That's recession. So for those periods, 2009, sorry, this is 2009, sorry. That first one is 2009. That first one is 2009. That first one is 2009, 2009, 2016, 2020. Whenever an economy experiences negative growth rate for 2 consecutive quarters, maybe January to March, April to June, the economy has slid into recession. So we always have that recession. Then there's a period of depression. That's sustained negative growth rates. That's depression, sustained, like negative growth rate, negative growth rate, negative growth rate is being experienced consecutively. That's depression. Then there will always be recovery. In macroeconomics, our objective is to make sure that we stay long in boom. We stay long. That's our objective. Let us stay long for, let's say, 30 years in boom, you know? And let's experience small depression. Yes, small recession. Yes, we can have recession. Then let's experience slight depression. but let's have quick recovery. Mind my language. Let's experience sustained boom. China never experienced sustained boom, despite the growth they achieved. But let's experience sustained boom. Let's slide into recession. Sliding. Let's quickly experience depression. Quickly. Then let's have what? Quick recovery. So it's not bad to slide into recession, but it's dangerous to remain in recession. That will lead to sustained depression. And when we now have sustained depression, recovery becomes challenging. So in the 1930s, the economy, global economies, US, Russia, China, US, Russia, UK, Germany, France, China was nowhere at that time, slide into depression. This is it. Into depression. And what happened in that depression? Look at what happened. Inflation was high. Wage rate was low. Unemployment was high. Demand was low. Output was what? Low. Look at what happened. During that period, inflation was high. Wage rate was low. Unemployment was high. Demand was low. Output was low. Economies experienced that depression. According to the classicalists in the theory of business cycle, the classicalist says that the government does not have a role to play in provision of goods and services. And that theory says that when an economy goes into recession, don't worry. The invisible hand will cause recovery. The forces of demand and supply will lead to what? Recovery. So when the economy slides into depression, you don't need to worry. Recession, don't worry. The economy will quickly recover. At your level, I am not to tell you how the economy will recover. You are not at that level. From year 3, you'll be taught that for those doing economics major. But at your level, just know what is business cycle. Period of boom, recession, depression, growth. Know what is boom, sustained growth, positive, double-digit growth rates. Know what is recession, negative growth rate for 2 consecutive quarters. You know, this is your picture. These things, you cannot miss them. Once I'm teaching, your questions are on as I'm teaching. You don't need to run up and down from pillar to post. As I'm teaching these videos, the questions are there. Because when I want to set your exam, I will play this video. So don't think past question will come out. Don't think you go and be carrying past question and be looking for. Forget that thing. Forget it. Forget about it. Everything is inside this note as I'm talking. So depression is when we have sustained negative growth rates, okay? And then, so that's what you have to know at your level. You are not to know how, the invisible hand will ensure that when economy goes into depression, it will recover. No, but the classically says that when the economy is into recession, government do nothing. Just watch and see. Sit down, look. Just be looking at me. That is the what? The classical school of thought. Just be looking at us. Don't worry. Everything will peak. In year 3, you will know how it will peak. But at your year 1, just know that everything will peak. But in that 1936, unemployment remained low. Wage rate was very low. Inflation was high. Imagine for a graduate to be earning 30,000 and a loaf of bread enter 5,000. From campus to Yaba is 500 naira. Prices was increasing. Inflation was high. Unemployment could see share. Demand was low. Nobody they go chicken and chips again. Nobody they chop shawarma. Nobody they buy Gary, nobody they buy yam. A bookie go carry and come market for my 12. You won't say tomatoes were rotten. Nobody was buying because there was no what? Income. Income was what? Low. Because unemployment was what? High. People were saying, sit down, look, ma womio, ma womio, ma womio, ma womi. Everybody were what? We are looking. Ma womio, ma womi. Economists said, don't do anything. President of America, ma womio, ma womi. UK, don't do anything. Ma womio, ma womi. Economy will recover. Economy will recover. People are dying. Poverty is increasing. Okay? Prices are getting high. This was what was happening, not until Keynes. Somebody should say, God will bless Keynes. People that are thinking, not those that are just sit down, look, and they're going to talk with them, they don't know. Keynes, Keynesian. Keynes, Lord Keynes, came up and said, no. Keynes said, government, look at a powerful quote. That was what Keynes did. A powerful quote. Keynes said, government has a role to play. Very profound. Said, government has a role to what? To play. That was what Keynes said. That the government has a role to play. That government must be involved in the provision of goods and what? Services. Government must be actively involved in what? Provision. Okay? The theory says government must use a policy. What is that policy called? That's what we call the fiscal policy, to direct and redirect the economy. Look at that word. Government must use fiscal policy to direct the economy towards sustained growth and redirect the economy away from recession to recovery. Keynes made this profound statement and said, come on, government, you shouldn't sit down and be looking. You must be actively involved in production. Government has a role to play. And what this Keynes said, Keynes made a profound statement and said, even if it is for the government to pay certain group of people to dig the ground and open it, and also pay another group of people to dig the ground and cover it, government should involve in such activity, provided that income is earned by what? Earned by individuals. These are very profound statements, very, very profound. And these statements is the genesis of the Keynesian theory, is the genesis of fiscal policy, public finance, is the genesis of monetary policy, monetary economics, is the genesis of international economics, is the genesis of public sector economics, is the genesis of the neo-Keynesian, genesis of so many things. That is why you are studying it at year 1. So the government has an active role to play. That's the classical school of thought. Sorry, that's the Keynesian school of thought. That government should not just sit down, look, ma womi, but government should be involved in production of goods and services. Government should be involved in provision of welfare, provision of healthcare services, provision of education, provision of welfare, provision of income. And that is why you now have government actively involved in provision of what? Goods and services. That's why we now have universities owned by governments. That's why we now have general hospital, teaching hospitals owned by governments. That's why we now have NEPA providing electricity before. That's why we now have many of all those, government providing those what? Services, oil, refinery, and all of that. So that Keynes said, by the time you do this, you will be able to do what? To, redirect the economy from depression towards what? Recovery. And then government had to employ people. It was no longer based on efficiency, because when output is low, when, for example, people are no longer demanding for cold stone, output is low. Once that output is low, what do you think will happen? The government, people will sack workers now. Oh, yeah, be going home, go see share. Go see, when nobody is making hair, you would tell the person making hair, be going home. When there's no clients. Yeah, sorry for the network. So, in that case, the law says the government should be actively what? Involved in production, provision of goods and what? And services. Now, the government has a role to play. Government has a role, a critical role to play. That is the Keynesian proposition. And that is the role of what? Government. So, because of that, remember, the classicalists, okay? The classicalists, they were able to achieve the invisible hand simply because prices are flexible. By the time you get to year 3, you will understand that word. That word is loaded in year 3. The classicalists were able to, that invisible hand that will say that do not do anything, that when unemployment is low, very soon unemployment will increase because wage is flexible, because prices of goods and services are flexible. That is the classicalist. But the Keynesian said no. The reason we have those long depression where unemployment is high, poverty is high, wage is low, is because prices are not flexible. Keynesian said prices are sticky downwards. Prices are fixed. When we talk about prices, we're talking about prices of final goods and services. Wages you pay to consumers for labor is price. Interest rate is price of capital. So when I use the word prices, prices there talks about price of final goods and services. Price that you pay a laborer is called wages. Price you pay on capital you borrow is called what? Interest. So the word there, prices, covers interest rate, wage rate, and prices of final goods and services. Keynes said prices are not flexible, but prices are sticky downwards. Prices are fixed. Meaning, if prices go up, it is difficult for a price to come down. That is what Keynes said. And because it is difficult for prices to come down, if the government does not intervene, the economy will remain in perpetual depression. That is the assumption of Keynes. This is principle of macroeconomics. You must know these principles. And so Keynes said prices are sticky downwards. And it's true. It's true. Let's look at it. Bag of rice was 7,000 before. Before you know it, over 12,000. Before you know they closed border, it entered 28,000. When they open border, did they return back to 12,000? A lie. It can never. Prices will never return down towards, will never return towards to that 12,000. Once prices go up, it can't come down. So because of it, Keynes is of the opinion that government must what? Intervene. And so because prices are sticky downwards, that led to Keynes drawing the average aggregate supply. We have aggregate demand and aggregate supply. We'll do that later. Aggregate demand talks about the total goods and services every economic agent demands. What is our demand? Consumption for consumer, government expenditure for the government, investment for firms, and your net export. We will do that later. That's our what? Aggregate demand. Aggregate supply talks about the current output that are produced in the economy. So because prices are sticky, downwards, price is fixed, there must not be a relationship between supply and prices. Let me draw it. There must not be what? A relationship between supply and what? And prices. This place is price of prices, okay? When I mean prices, of course, I talk about wage rate, I'm talking about interest rate, and I'm talking about all of that. This is prices. Then this place is your what? Is your output, okay? For the classicalist says prices are flexible. So to the classicalist, this is their aggregate supply. When you get to year 3, you will do it very well. That's them. Simply because prices are flexible. If price go up, it will come down. Price go up, it will come down. Price go up, it will come down. That is the word classicalist. But however, the classicalist said no. This is not. Keynesian said no. Keynesian said because prices are fixed, there is no relationship between price and output. Therefore, our aggregate supply is like this. And so, because our aggregate supply is like this, our aggregate demand curve is always like this. So, at equilibrium, the economy will be like this. Let's say Y1. That's at equilibrium. The economy is at that point. Keynes now said that for you to cause economic growth is not by increasing aggregate supply. Because if you dare increase aggregate supply, what happens? Output will decline. Keynes said, no, you can't do that. But the only thing you have to do is to do what? Increase what? Aggregate demand. By causing the aggregate demand to do what? Increase. Causing the aggregate demand to do what? To increase. Look at it. And remember, what is aggregate demand? Aggregate demand is equals to consumption plus investment plus government expenditure plus export minus what? Import. That's aggregate demand. So Keynes said the only way you can cause economic growth, is by moving your aggregate demand from AD1 to AD2. And when you do that, output will increase from the initial point to a new point. Y what? Y2. What happens? Output has what? Increased. How did output increase? Because aggregate demand increased from what? AD1 to what? AD2. How? Remember, if aggregate demand is equal to C plus I plus G plus X minus N, if you increase G, that means AD1 will also do what? Increase. And that's why you now have a new aggregate demand called AD2. And that's why output will now increase from this point to this point. Why? Because G was increased. So the role of government simply says that when you increase government expenditure, that will lead to what? Your aggregate demand increasing. And when aggregate demand increases, your AD curve, AD what? Curve will shift outward. When a D curve shifts outward, what will happen? Output will do what? Output will increase. Look at it. This is the Keynesian what? So in exam, when you hear if government expenditure increase, this is results to aggregate demand curve will increase, aggregate demand curve will decline, aggregate demand curve will remain unchanged. Aggregate demand curve can increase or not decrease. You know the answer. The answer is what? The answer is aggregate demand curve will what? Increase. Simple. So once government expenditure increases, aggregate demand curve will increase. That will lead to the aggregate demand curve to shift what? Outward. Once aggregate demand curve shifts outward, output will what? Increase. When output increases, there will be what? There will be recovery. And when there's recovery, economies will come out of what? Will come out of depression. That is the Keynesian what? That is the Keynesian what? Theory. That is the Keynesian what? Theory. All right? This is the main concept of the Keynesian school of what? Thought. And so, that's how we have this graph that's on your module. And so, because of that, Keynesians were now able to talk about the word full employment in the Keynesian school versus the classical. In the classical school of thought says there will be full employment, meaning there will be a point in time where the economies are full employment. In the long run, the economy will be at what? Full employment. And in that long run, unemployment will become zero. He has now said, no, shut up. It's not possible. It's not true. The economy cannot be at full employment. That we can experience full employment, but full employment does not mean zero unemployment, but it's just an employment that is sufficient for full output. And that unemployment will still exist at full employment. But that unemployment is called the frictional unemployment, or the natural rate of what? Unemployment, NIRU. And that is unemployment that occurs when people change job. So Keynes said there will always be changes of job. People want to change job. Between the time you want to change job and the next time you want to take up another job, there will always be what? Unemployment. And that unemployment, as at that point in time, is what we refer to as what? Frictional unemployment, or the natural rate of what? Unemployment. Okay, but yet we can say the economies are full employment. So if you have unemployment of 2%, 1.9, 1.8, 1.6, 2.3, we say the economies are full employment, although unemployment exists because of that changes of what? Changing in what? Changing jobs. But yet the economies are full employment. And that is the end of the lecture. Questions, please. Questions? Obayemi, you are dancing. I'm teaching, you are dancing. You see, you join the video, you join the class. Yes, Marcel, your question, please. Unmute yourself and ask your question. Marcel, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Okay, Marcel is not ready. Additional, unmute yourself and ask your question. Oh, sorry, I think it was my network.
Okay, sir.
All right, so Marcel, your question, please.
So, okay, I was saying there's where you wrote on the whiteboard, aggregate demand equals C plus I plus G plus X minus M. Are you saying aggregate demand is equals national income?
Yes. The national income is the same as the aggregate demand. When you get to, but then we'll go further. Maybe your year 2, you'll be able to understand better. But that's the same as that C plus I plus J plus X minus N.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Lower your hand. Kingsley, your question. Unmute yourself.
Okay. My question, sir, is you said the recession is a negative growth for 2 consecutive quarters. Does it mean that when it's above that 2 consecutive quarters, we can now say it's depression? Or is there any timeline for depression as well?
Yeah, there's no timeline for depression, but you know, when you are on your negative growth for 1 year already, you're already sliding into depression.
Okay.
You know that there are 4 quarters in a year. So 2 quarters, yes, that's 6 months, is negative growth. You should be able to come out of it in the next quarter. But if you don't come out of it, you get worried. If you don't come out of it, the other one, you're already sliding into depression.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. Michael.
Hi. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. You shared a curve regarding the aggregate demand and aggregate supply. I couldn't get the whole contents of the curve. Please, can you share with us on the screen back, sir?
Okay. Do you want to write it or you just want to ask a question on it?
No, I didn't get the full content of it. I'm clear. I understood you or something. I didn't get the full content of it.
I'm still going to send it like a PDF to you.
Okay. All right, sir.
Yes, I'll still send everything like a PDF. I've already saved it like a PDF. I'll send them to you. I hope you got the first one, the last week Saturday Zoom.
I was not in attendance, sir.
Oh,
I didn't join the class.
Oh, sorry. Okay. But please, I always share everything so you will get it.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Precious, your question. Precious, your question.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Just go straight to the question, Precious.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm good, thank God.
So, yeah. So, like you said, that China has never experienced stable bloom, and I was wondering, for an economy like that, what could make them not experience stable bloom?
No, I said China has not experienced sustained boom. That's what I used. That China has not experienced sustained boom. You know what my sustained boom? To have like double-digit growth rate for like 10 years. It's difficult to maintain. China tried, China had 8, 9, for like 5, 6 years. China started since 2000. China economy really made significant impact 2005, from 2005. So I'm not saying China did not experience stable growth. Of course, China experienced stable growth. I'm talking about sustained boom. Boom is like double digits growth rates. If you notice, Nigeria only experienced double-digit growth rate once, 2003, 15%, just once. And that was because they rebased the economy and all of that. And of course, there was FDI. The economy was really booming then. Have I answered it? Okay,
sir. So, no, I'm still a little bit confused. So if Nigeria is able to experience sustained boom, even though it's once, and yet China's economy is known to be stable, why then have they not been able to experience sustained boom?
Nigeria has not experienced sustained boom. There's a difference between boom and growth. you can experience sustained growth like GDP 1.5%, 2.3%, 4.5%. Economies experience sustained growth. Nigeria has experienced sustained growth. Nigeria has experienced sustained growth, not until this year administration, not until this Buhari administration. Buhari really had challenges, 2016, 2018, it was very low, 2020, 2021, trying to peak and all of that. So, but during the Obasanjo experienced sustained growth. There's a difference between sustained growth and sustained boom. In sustained boom is double digits, like 9%, 10%, 12% growth, 14% growth rate. Economies is hard to experience such, but most economies experience sustained growth, no doubt about it. Do you understand it now? Precious, do you understand it now?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. Bakari. Bakari. Yeah, just go straight to the point. Leave good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir. How are you? This. I'm fine. Just say small boy. My question is this. Go straight to the point. So
you made me business cycle.
Yes, business cycle.
Yes, there's business cycle is a period of boom, recession and depression. So is it all the country that experience that business cycle?
Yes, every economy experiences business cycle. Every economy experiences business cycle. There will always be a period of boom. There will always be a period of recession, slight depression, or even not depression, but recovery. Every economy experiences it. Even IMF has already projected that this year, the world might experience global recession. And that was because we were coming out from pandemic, then Ukraine-Russia war started, and so it's possible. Any other question?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Chidima, your question, please. Chidima, you can unmute and ask your question. Chidima. Priestess, you can ask your question. Unmute and ask your question.
Okay, sir. On a quick one, please, my question is on business sector. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Okay, the question is, I really didn't get the explanation for recovery. I only got the explanation for boom, recession, depression, but I really didn't get the explanation for recovery. That's number one.
Okay. Recovery is when you experience a positive growth after your recession or depression. That's recovery. So if after 6 months of your negative growth, in the third quarter, you now have recovery. You now have positive growth rate. That's recovery. If after 1 year of depression, 1 year negative, or even 2 years or 3 years, the moment you now have positive growth, that's recovery.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay, please, I have another question, sir.
Okay.
Okay, you made mention of government should pay people to dig the ground and open the ground and also pay another people to cover it. What does it mean, sir?
I'm just trying to explain the critical role that government plays in production. Keynes was, that's like a sarcasm, sarcasm, or a sarcasm, or exaggeration. I don't know. But those are in literature should be able to know the appropriate word. Keynes was emphasizing that government has a role in business. Don't just fold your hands. You need to do something. And even if it is for you to pay some group of people who will go outside, go to one bush, maybe by the express road, and dig the ground, just dig it for digging's sake. Pay them money, they will go back to their house. Now mobilize another group of people that will now cover the ground, with shovel and pay them. It is important, it's worth it. So he's just trying to explain the critical role government plays. Do you understand that analogy?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay, one more question, sir. I'm sorry, sir. One more question.
Okay.
Can I go ahead?
Go, move on now. It's your class.
Okay.
You're the chairman.
Oh, okay, sir. Sorry, sir. Okay, I want to ask a question on the public goods and the characteristics. You made mention of non-excludable goods and non-revival goods. So I didn't really get the example for the one of the non-excludable goods, the example you gave. But I saw one you gave us of road and bridges. The excludable goods and non-revival goods.
I gave an example. I said bridge.
Okay. Is it a non-revivalous?
A bridge, using a bridge, they are both non-rivalrous and non-excludable. That's why it's public goods.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you, sir. Okay, one more thing, sir. Sir, can I send you my matric number later on? Because I typed it somewhere. I cannot go out because I will not be able to come in again. Is that permitted, sir?
Type your name. Only
okay,
business. Emma, your name. Only you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Chidima, are you ready now?
Sir.
Good afternoon. Your question.
My question is on the business cycle. Ever since I've been studying about currency, I realized that the Japanese yen currency is very low due to the war they had some time ago. And since it has been low, I'm wondering, does it mean that the Japanese economy is on a sustainable direction because they are for a long time?
Don't interchange business cycle with stock market activities or forex. When we talk about business cycle, it's purely production, purely economic growth, output, production of machineries or cassava or agricultural products or industry or services. It has nothing to do with the forex markets. So whether just that there's a relationship between macroeconomic fundamentals and stock market or forex, there's a relationship between it. But the real business cycle is the real sector. Talks about production. It has nothing to do with forex or exchange rate and all of that. Though whatever that happens in the business cycle affects forex, but you cannot say that because forex, Japanese yen or Chinese yuan or Swiss franc is low, that means Switzerland is experiencing depression or is in this business cycle. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Sharif.
My question is, why do all the economists relied on the Keynesian theory? Is it that the classical school of thought is bad, or what? Because you made mention of, you actually emphasized on Keynesian theory that's the best school of thought among the other school of thought have in economics.
Do you know what we call Nobel laureates? You know Nobel laureates, right?
I actually don't know.
When we see somebody who is a Nobel laureate, that is the greatest award a researcher can win in the whole world, the greatest ever, Nobel laureate. Wole Soyinka won Nobel laureate in literature.
Okay.
All right. So what I want to explain that is economics is a very unique course in the sense that there is no, in the real sense, I'm not answering this question because of exam purpose. In exam, there's always a right and a wrong answer. But in the real sense of economics in debate, there's no perfect right answer. There's no perfect wrong answer. But in economics, we engage in arguments, okay, discussion. We weigh the ones that have a better advantage. So I'm not saying classicalist is bad totally. Classicalist still remains relevant in some areas, while Keynesian remains very relevant in also some areas. If you notice most economists now, They were in capitalism, free market, Keynesian and classical school. But throughout this COVID pandemic and all of that, they are now seeing the role of government and all of that coming in. So what I'm trying to say is that Keynesian actually brought out other concepts that people were not actually discovering or talking about. Fiscal policy, monetary policy, public sector economics, international economics. Because of Keynesian theory, many of those questions now came up. Many of those, assertions and explanations and all of that, schools of thought came up. So Keynesian is like he gave birth to so many now aspects of economics that people consider. But that does not mean that the free market or classical school of thought does not hold. That's why when you see many economists now, they practice both. They are in between many economists. Look at Nigeria. There was a time that it was only public universities that we are running. We had only 2 or 4 private universities. Today, we have close to 60 or, I don't know, I might be wrong, but we have close to 50 or 60 private universities. So we are allowing people. There was a time that government owns everything, NEPA, Port Authority, this one. But look at during the time Obasanjo came, he privatized NITEL. Before NITEL was as bad, I will need to go to Lagos Island and stand on one tree, one pole, one upstairs, because before I can do international call. Before NITEL, you wake up, no internet. And so Obasanjo said, no, transfer it to the private individual. That's classical school of thought. And MTN, Glo, Airtel, it is a lot. Today now we have services. You can imagine. Before 1993, you would dial it like this. You roll it. It will not connect. So all schools of thought are good. So in what I'm saying that it's only in economics that 2 different people said different things. One said be going up, don't ever come down, be going up, oh, that's the solution. The other person said, come down, don't ever go up, 2 of them won Nobel laureates. So it's all about your arguments. For the purpose of the exam, there's always a right answer and wrong answer, but in the real sense of economics, because you ask, why is it that economists, in the real sense of economics, we look at the good and bad. Just like the Naira redesign, there's the good aspect of it, there is the bad aspect of it. That's just it. Any policy has the good and bad. Border closure, there's the good aspect, there's the bad aspect. You only weigh the bad and weigh the good. Is the good more than the bad? And you take it up. Has that answered your question?
Yeah, you've answered. Thank you very much.
Hey, God's power. God's power.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Your question.
Sir, can you hear me, sir?
Your question.
Yes, sir. The recession you spoke about. During my I was the author there could write that recession in a country might as well cause another recession in another country. So I don't really get it. Can you share more light on it?
You know that in your circular flow of income, I forgot to talk about it. We have closed economy and open economy, right? An open economy is an economy, that interacts with the other countries. A closed economy does not. Abi? So give me an example of a closed economy. God's power.
Nigeria could be a closed economy, so far they're trading with other continents, other countries. Sir.
So Nigeria is a closed economy.
Yes, sir.
So give me an example of an open economy.
An open economy could be USA.
You don't understand. Listen. A closed economy is an economy that does not have a trading partner. If you tell me Nigeria is a closed economy, so Nigeria does not have a trading partner. So Nigeria produces crude oil and Nigeria drinks the crude oil.
As trading partners, I didn't get your question for.
Do you know what a closed economy is now?
Yes, a closed economy, yes, sir.
Give me an example of a closed economy. Give me an example of an open economy.
Is it the country?
Yes. Economy is a country. Economies. I'm not talking about country. No, in economics, we don't mention country or state. We talk about economies. So when I say Nigerian economy, give me an example of an economy. I'm talking about a country. Understand that, please. In economies, we talk about economies, yes.
So what's your question, sir?
Give me an example of a closed economy.
Yeah, that's closed economy could be.
You ask questions. When you ask questions, you ask deep questions to understand. But you ask advanced questions, and there are some deep, basic things you should understand. You are not. Every economy relates with the global counterpart. And so naturally, there's always a transmission mechanism between this economy and the other economy. If Nigeria is expressing depression, it will affect our trading partners now. Of course, if China is experiencing depression, it will affect other countries China is importing goods to now, exporting goods to. It's normal. It's a straightforward thing. You are not an island now. Nobody's an island. Do you understand?
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
I want to digress a little bit. It's not like you said everyone should send a matric number. Like me now, there are some of us that don't have matric number yet due to we are not done with our second screening.
So what do you have? JAM number or what? Name. Which one do you have?
Application number, sir. Yeah.
Eh?
Application number and name.
Do you have another question, please?
No, sir.
Ibikunle, fast to your question. There's no more time. Fast. Ibikunle, fast to your question. Anjari, fast to your question.
Yeah, sorry, sir. Please, can you please emphasize more on frictional unemployment, please?
Frictional unemployment is that type of unemployment that exists because people are changing jobs. In between the period, people changes job. By the time I resign from a job and I'm taking up another one, I will definitely be unemployed. So within that period, if unemployment record is taken, I will be frictionally unemployed. That's frictional unemployment. Do you understand that?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. I got that.
Ajayi? Ajayi? Ajayi?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Go straight to your question. Leave the afternoon.
The mixed goods, sir. You said delivery and non-exclusive. Like I couldn't understand that part because my network was bad.
Yes, don't worry. You will listen to the video. The video will help you to explain better again. It's there. So if after listening to the video, you have still issues, you can reach out to the class governor to give you my number and call me. I will explain.
Okay, sir.
Why I'm not explaining it is because it's not part of what you should know. I just try to explain part of it. So just listen to that video again. It's there.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate it.
John. John.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, good afternoon.
I don't have access to my matric number right now. Is there a way I can send it to you later, please?
Hello.
Adenike.
Sir.
Adenike, your question.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, sir.
Straight to your question. Don't worry.
Okay.
Is
All
the
right,
afternoon
sir.
good? I don't even know if it's good. Just straight to the question.
So I want to ask you about the Keynes theory.
Keynesian
theory, sorry.
Yeah.
So what I want to ask is that I want to say some things and I want you to let me know maybe I'm right or not. I'm not trying to come to you like maybe too know or stuff like that. Sure, you understand what I'm trying to say? I want to say some things and I want to be certain, maybe
Say them,
what
say
I
them,
want.
say them, say
All
them,
right.
say them.
So to me, I think the Keynesian theory is more like government than private sectors. Why the capitalists are like the classicalists are like more of private than government.
Capitalist is total private.
Okay.
Keynesian is more of government, less of private.
Okay. So, and this business cycle, yeah, according to the graph here, recovery and boom. You said boom is a very high growth in business. What if the business from boom to depression and can't go back again to growth? Is there like any?
It will always go back. It will always go back. It's a cycle. Okay. It's a business cycle. It's continuation.
Okay.
All right. Is that all?
I'm coming, sir. I'm very sorry. And again, I want to ask you a question. I'm very sorry, sir. I've not gotten my matric number yet because I'm not done with my.
Vivian, your question. Vivian, your question. Favor, your question.
Okay, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. Straight to the point. Question.
Said when you were answering the last person that asked your question, you said the classically total private.
Are you asking the question of the former person?
No. I want you to clarify something.
Okay.
Then the Keynesian is more of government, less private. But when you are explaining the classical, you said that in classical that the government are limited, their role is limited in the classical. So I want to understand, is it that the government does not have any role to play at all in the classical?
You are not following. You are not following in the class. No, I won't answer that question. I've explained the two roles government plays in the classical. You are not in the class. I'm sorry. You're not in the class. Go on. Hello, ma. I explained. I used about 30 minutes to explain the two roles government plays in the classicalist. Go and listen to the video. If you watch the video, you still don't understand, you ask me again.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Vivian. Ibikule, your hand. I gave you opportunity before and I'm lowering it. What is the question? I gave you opportunity, you did not mute. Another opportunity. What is it, Ibikule? Okay.
Hello, sir.
Iberechi. Vivian,
sir,
unmute
yes, sir.
yourself and ask your question straight to the point.
It's not question, sir. Sir, I just joined the lecture for today. I don't have any other the previous lecture, sir. Can I get it, sir? That is just what I
join the group chat. The class governor will drop the link again. Check my name on YouTube. It's also there. Onyebuchiwebu.
Okay.
Go to my YouTube page. You will see it there.
Okay,
the class governor will join the link. You shouldn't be asking all these kind of questions. Go to your class governor, and then your class governor will tell you. I'm asking questions that relate to